Adultery. In the law of Moses, adultery was not treated as a private failure or a complicated relationship issue. It was treated as a crime that carried the death penalty. Leviticus 20:10 states it without qualification. If a man commits adultery with another man's wife, both the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. The same standard appears again in Deuteronomy 22:22. If a man is found sleeping with another man's wife, both of them shall die. There is no distinction made between intent, emotion, or circumstance. The focus is on the act itself and what it represented. To understand why Scripture speaks this way, we have to remember how marriage functioned in Israel. Marriage was not only a personal bond, it was a covenant that held families, inheritance, and community stability together. Adultery wasn't viewed simply as betrayal between two people. It was an act that fractured trust across households and violated a covenant God Himself had established. That is why adultery appears repeatedly alongside idolatry and violence in the law. It wasn't treated as a lapse in judgment, but as a willful breach of covenant faithfulness. Proverbs 6:32 reflects this perspective when it says, "He who commits adultery lacks sense, he who does it destroys himself." The damage was understood to extend far beyond the moment. It's also important to note that while these passages state the death penalty clearly, they do not always specify the method here. Other sexual offenses in Deuteronomy 22 do include stoning explicitly, which helps explain how adultery was categorized legally within Israel's justice system. The emphasis in these verses is not on the method, but on the seriousness of the offense. When we compare this with modern attitudes, the difference is stark. Adultery today is often framed as complicated, understandable, or even inevitable. It's discussed in terms of fulfillment, dissatisfaction, or personal growth. Scripture approaches it from a different angle altogether, one centered on covenant, faithfulness, and the ripple effects of broken trust. The New Testament continues this seriousness even while addressing a different covenant context. Hebrews 13:4 warns, "Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral." The penalty is no longer administered by a national legal system, but the moral weight has not disappeared. Scripture treats adultery as destructive, not because God is harsh, but because covenant faithfulness matters deeply to Him. And that forces a sobering question for every generation. Do we see faithfulness as sacred or as optional when desire speaks loud?